My fiancé said, "We need a break while I am in Cabo." I replied, "Then the engagement is over." Then I canceled my flight, paused the wedding, secured my documents, and prepared to sell our condo. She kept acting single beside her ex until a resort livestream captured her sudden breakdown. My fiancée told me we needed a break because her ex was joining the trip and I should just accept it. So I did, and when she returned, her complete meltdown was broadcast live for everyone to watch. My name is Lucas. I am 31 and I work as a structural engineer in San Diego. My schedule is predictable. I am at job sites early. I am home by 6 most nights and I keep a tight calendar because missed details cost money in my field. I like order. I like clarity. My fiancée is Angela, 29. She works in brand marketing for a wellness startup, mostly remote, with frequent networking events and weekend launches. We have been together just over 3 years, engaged for 7 months, and we share a 2-bedroom condo in Hillrest. We split the mortgage and bills evenly and keep a joint account strictly for shared expenses. Up until recently, our life was stable. The issue started with a group trip. Angela has a college friend group that does one big trip every spring. This year was supposed to be Cabo. We booked it in January. Flights paid, resort suite reserved. I cleared the time with my firm and declined a short-term consulting project because the dates overlapped. About 2 weeks ago, Angela came home from drinks with that group acting unusually brisk, not drunk, focused. She skipped the usual small talk and said we needed to talk. She told me her ex, Marcus, was going to be on the Cabo trip, not at the same resort by coincidence with our group. I asked how that happened. She said one of the girls reconnected with him recently, and it would be awkward not to include him. She said it like this was a minor adjustment to seating arrangements. I asked when she found out. She admitted she had known for a few days, but did not want me to overreact. That was the first red flag. I had not reacted to anything yet. I told her I was not comfortable with her vacationing for a week with her ex in a shared suite environment. She rolled her eyes and said we are adults and that I needed to trust her. Then she added something that shifted the entire tone. She said if I was going to be tense about it, maybe we should take a break while she is on the trip so she does not have to manage my energy. Manage my energy. I asked directly if she was asking for a break because Marcus was going or if Marcus was going because she wanted a break. She stared at me for a second, expression flat, and said I was being insecure and dramatic. Then she grabbed her laptop and went into the second bedroom, closing the door behind her. I did not chase her. I did not argue through the door. I went to the kitchen, sat down, and started thinking about what taking a break would actually mean. I am not someone who reacts in the heat of the moment. In my line of work, reacting emotionally to new information usually leads to bad calculations. So, I treated this the same way. The next morning, I woke up at 500 like usual. Angela was still asleep in the second bedroom. I made coffee, reviewed a set of drawings for a retaining wall project, and thought through what she had actually proposed. A break, not a canceled trip. Not reassurance. A break specifically timed to overlap with a week in Cabo where her ex would be present. When she came into the kitchen around 8, she acted like nothing had happened. She asked if I could grab dry cleaning after work. I told her we needed clarity before we discussed errands. She sighed heavily and said she did not want drama before work. I told her I was not creating drama. I just needed to understand the rules of this break she was suggesting. Were we still engaged during this break? Were we still exclusive? Were we telling friends? Was this public or private? She looked annoyed that I was being literal. She said it would just be space. No labels for a week. No pressure. We could reconnect after she got back refreshed. Refreshed from what exactly was my question, but I did not say it like that. Instead, I asked directly if she intended to act single on this trip. She said I was twisting her words. She said she deserved to enjoy a vacation without being monitored. She said I was making this about Marcus when it was about my insecurity. I pointed out that I had not suggested tracking her, reading her messages, or attending every group dinner glued to her side. I had simply said I was uncomfortable with the dynamic. Then I asked the question that mattered. If Marcus was not going, would she still be asking for a break? There was a pause. Not long, but long enough. She said that was not the point. For me, that was the point. I told her calmly that I would not be in a relationship that gets paused for the convenience of someone else's ex. If she wanted a break, we could take one, but it would be real, not a 7-day suspension with automatic reinstatement. She crossed her arms and said I was being extreme. I told her I was being clear. She left for a co-working space shortly after, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame. I went to my site visit, reviewed concrete pours, and kept my phone on silent. Around noon, she texted. She said she had thought about it, and yes, she still wanted the break. It would be healthier for both of us. I responded with one sentence. Okay, we are on a break starting now. She replied with a thumbs-up emoji. That was it. No rules discussed, no reassurances exchanged, just a clean line drawn. What she did not realize yet was that I treat breaks the same way I treat contracts. Once terms change, everything gets reevaluated. The first thing I did after that text exchange was review our shared accounts. Not out of spite, out of logistics. We have a joint checking account that covers the mortgage, utilities, internet, and groceries. We each transfer a fixed amount into it on the first of every month. I logged in during my lunch break and confirmed the balances. Everything was current. Cabo had already been paid for through Angela's card, and I had transferred my half weeks earlier. Then I called the airline. I did not cancel her ticket. I canceled mine. It cost me a change fee, but I redirected the credit toward a future flight. I did not announce it. If we were on a break, there was no reason for me to be attached to that trip anymore. After work, I stopped by a storage facility a few blocks from our condo and rented a small unit month to month. Not because I planned to move out dramatically, but because I wanted optionality. I have learned that optionality reduces panic. That evening, Angela came home lighter, almost cheerful. She had that detached politeness people use with co-workers they are not sure they like. She asked if we were still splitting groceries this week. I said yes, until further notice. A break does not cancel shared bills. She nodded and said, good. Then she casually mentioned that Marcus would be rooming in the larger suite area with the other guys. Like that detail should reassure me. I told her I had canceled my flight. She blinked. You are not coming, she asked. No, I said. We are on a break. It would not make sense for me to attend your vacation. Her expression shifted from surprise to irritated in seconds. She said I was being petty. I told her I was being consistent. A break means separation. She said it was just supposed to be space, not a statement. I told her space works both ways. She did not yell. She just went quiet in that tight way she does when she thinks someone is not playing by her script. Over the next few days, she packed for Cabo like nothing had changed. New swimsuits arrived. She ordered outfits specifically for dinners. She spent extra time at the gym. We slept in separate rooms without discussing it. The night before her flight, she stood in the doorway of the guest room and asked if I was really going to act like this the entire time. I told her I was not acting. I was adjusting to the new term she proposed. She shook her head and said I was overthinking everything. Maybe, but I have never seen a stable engagement require a scheduled break that coincides perfectly with an ex re-entering the picture. She left for Cabo the next morning at 600. I did not drive her to the airport, and that is when things started to get interesting, because even on a break, information still travels. The first 2 days after Angela left were quiet. I went to work. I reviewed load calculations. I had lunch at my desk. I came home to an empty condo and ate simple dinners. It felt less tense than it had in weeks. We were technically on a break, so I did not text her. I muted her Instagram stories because I did not need curated vacation footage in my face. What I did not anticipate was that other people would start reaching out. On the second night, one of the husbands from the group, Eric, texted me. We are not close, but we have done enough dinners together to be cordial. His message was neutral. Hey man, just checking in. You good? That was interesting. I replied that I was fine and hoped they were enjoying Cabo. He sent back a short response. Yeah, it has been eventful already. He did not elaborate. I did not push. About an hour later, I got a notification request on Instagram from someone I did not recognize. It was a private account with a profile picture of a sunset and no posts. The bio said San Diego. Normally, I ignore those. This time, I did not. The first message was simple. You deserve to know what is being said about you. I almost laughed. It sounded dramatic, which I usually avoid, but I was curious enough to respond with a single question. What is being said? The reply came quickly that you two are basically done, that the break is mutual and you are both seeing other people. Seeing other people. That phrasing stood out because I had not seen anyone. I had been at work and then home. I asked who was saying that. The account responded with a screenshot. It was from a group story at the resort bar. Angela was in the background laughing, drink in hand. The caption from one of the girls read "Fresh Start Energy." Underneath, someone had commented, "Finally, finally." I did not feel angry. I felt clear. If the narrative in Cabo was that our engagement was effectively over, then my next steps needed to reflect that reality. I thanked the anonymous account for the information and did not ask for more. I did not confront Angela. We were on a break. She was free to present herself however she wanted, but I am not someone who leaves my reputation to be shaped by someone else's version. That night, I opened my laptop and drafted an email. Not to her, to everyone who had received our save the date notice. I did not send it yet, but I wrote it. I did not send the email that night. I reread it 3 times and then saved it in drafts. It was short and factual. It said that due to a change in circumstances, the engagement was under review and the wedding plans were paused indefinitely. No blame, no details, just clarity. Before doing anything irreversible, I wanted more data. The next morning, I went to work as usual. Around 1,000, Eric texted again. You might want to check the tagged photos from last night. I had muted Angela's stories, but I had not muted tags. There were 3 new posts from different accounts at the resort rooftop bar. In 2 of them, Angela was sitting very close to Marcus. Not accidentally close, intentionally angled. In one clip, he had his arm around the back of her chair, his hand resting near her shoulder. It was subtle enough to defend, obvious enough to interpret. The caption on one photo said, "Reunited cruise hit different." Angela had liked it. Still, that alone was not proof of anything physical. It was proof of optics, and optics matter when you are engaged. I zoomed in on one of the videos. At the very end, you can hear someone in the background say, "Guess the break worked fast." Angela did not correct them. I closed the app. At lunch, I called the condo management office. The mortgage is in both our names, but the HOA contact is listed under mine. I asked what the process would be if one owner wanted to initiate a buyout discussion. Not because I was filing anything that day, but because I wanted to understand timelines. That afternoon, Angela finally texted me directly. "Hope you are good. Cabo is beautiful." I responded with, "Glad you are enjoying it." She followed up with, "You seem distant." I stared at that for a full minute. "We are on a break." I wrote back, "Distance is implied." She did not respond after that. Later that evening, the anonymous Instagram account messaged again. This time it was a short video clip. It was clearly taken discreetly from across the bar. Angela and Marcus were dancing. Not group dancing, not a circle of friends, just them close enough that there was no space between their bodies. There was no dramatic kiss in the clip. No obvious betrayal caught mid-act, but the body language was intimate. And more importantly, it was public. That is when I made the decision I probably should have made the first night. She suggested the break. I scheduled the email to send the following morning at 9:00 a.m. Pacific Time, right in the middle of their 3rd day in Cabo. At 9:00 a.m. Pacific, the email went out. It was sent to the same distribution list we used for the save the dates. Close friends, immediate family, a few extended relatives who had already booked tentative travel. The wording was controlled. I wrote that Angela and I had mutually agreed to take an indefinite break from our engagement, and that as a result the wedding would not be moving forward as planned. I clarified that deposits were being reviewed and that guests should pause any non-refundable bookings. I thanked them for their support and said I would update them if circumstances changed. No accusations, no screenshots, no theatrics. Within 15 minutes, my phone started vibrating. My sister called first. I did not answer. I texted her that I would explain later and that I was fine. Then Angela called. I let it ring. She called again. Then again, finally, she sent a text. "What did you just send?" I replied with exactly what I had sent, a pause notice. She responded almost immediately. "Are you insane?" I told her no, I was aligning public information with current reality. We were on a break. The engagement was not stable. It would be irresponsible to keep people planning around a wedding that might not happen. 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times before she sent a longer message. "You are humiliating me." That word stood out, not "you are hurting me," not "we should talk." Humiliating. I asked how. She said people in Cabo were already texting her asking what was going on. She said I blindsided her. I reminded her that she had initiated the break and publicly positioned herself as single enough for people to comment finally under photos. There was a long pause. Then she called again. This time I answered. Her voice was tight and elevated. She said I was overreacting to harmless fun. She said nothing had happened. She said I was sabotaging us out of insecurity. I asked one question. "Did you tell people we were done?" She hesitated. She said she might have said we were figuring things out. I told her that matches what I communicated. She started crying then, but it did not sound like regret. It sounded like loss of control. In the background, I could hear music and voices. Someone asked if she was okay. She snapped at them to give her space. Then she said something I did not expect. She said Marcus was confused now. That was the first time she mentioned his reaction as relevant. I told her that her managing Marcus's confusion was not my responsibility. She hung up on me. 10 minutes later, the anonymous Instagram account sent one final message. It said, "You might want to check the resort's live feed tonight." Apparently, the rooftop bar streams certain events. I did not respond, but I did make a note of the time difference between San Diego and Cabo because if there was going to be a meltdown, I wanted to see it with my own eyes. That night, I opened the resort's public live stream about 10 minutes before the rooftop event was scheduled to start. It felt detached, almost clinical. I had my laptop on the kitchen counter, volume low, lights off in the condo. San Diego was quiet, Cabo was not. The camera was fixed near the bar, angled toward a small DJ booth and a section of lounge seating. People filtered in slowly. I recognized a few faces from past dinners. Then I saw Angela. She was dressed differently than the previous nights, not casual, intentional. She was holding a drink and talking animatedly to one of the girls. Marcus was a few feet away. At first, nothing happened, just music and people moving around, then her phone buzzed. Even from a distance, I could see her expression change. She stepped aside, opened something, and froze. Within seconds, 2 of the girls crowded around her. One of them grabbed her arm. I knew exactly what she was reading. My sister had texted her. I had warned my family I would explain later, but I had not told them to stay silent. Angela's face went from confusion to anger quickly. She started talking fast. Marcus approached. She showed him her phone. He read it. His reaction was not supportive. It was irritated. I could not hear them clearly over the music, but body language does not require subtitles. He stepped back. She stepped closer. He shook his head. Then it escalated. Angela raised her voice. Heads turned. One of the guys tried to calm her down. She pulled her arm away. Marcus said something short and sharp. She threw her hand up like she was dismissing him. And then she did something that made the entire rooftop stare. She pointed at him and started crying, not quiet tears. Full visible breakdown, gesturing toward her phone, toward him, toward the group. People nearby were now openly watching. The DJ even glanced over. Marcus looked embarrassed. He backed away. One of the girls tried to hug Angela and she shrugged her off. The live chat on the stream started moving faster. Someone typed, "What is happening?" Another wrote, "Drama night." I closed the laptop. I did not need to watch the rest. Within 30 seconds, my phone started lighting up again. Missed calls from Angela, 3 in a row. Then texts. "How could you do this? You blindsided me in front of everyone. Call me right now." That was the moment I made the cleanest decision of the entire situation. I opened my phone settings. I blocked her number. Then I blocked her on Instagram, then WhatsApp, then email filters straight to archive. If we were on a break and publicly not engaged, there was no reason for immediate access. She wanted space without managing my energy. I gave her silence instead. The next message I received was not from her. It was from Eric. "You just ended it, didn't you?" I replied with one word. "Yes." Once I blocked Angela, the noise stopped instantly. No more calls, no more vibrating phone on the counter, just quiet. About 20 minutes later, Eric sent me a short summary. Apparently, after I blocked her, she tried calling repeatedly in front of everyone. When it would not go through, she accused Marcus of encouraging me to send the email. That made no sense, and the group knew it. Marcus denied it. He told her he did not sign up for this kind of chaos. According to Eric, he said he thought she was basically single. That detail mattered. She had framed the situation differently to him than she had to me. When Marcus walked away, she followed him. They argued near the exit. Someone from the resort staff stepped in because her voice was carrying across the rooftop. It was not subtle. By the time they left the bar area, the rest of the group was uncomfortable enough that two couples went back to their rooms early. The trip dynamic was fractured in one night. I did not respond to any of it publicly. Instead, I logged into our joint account and transferred my portion of next month's mortgage into it ahead of schedule. I added a note in the transaction description stating final contribution pending ownership discussion. Clear documented. Then, I emailed a real estate attorney the next morning to ask about initiating a buyout or sale. Angela was still blocked. She attempted to contact me through my sister. My sister sent me a screenshot of the message and asked if she should respond. I told her no. By the third day after the email, Angela cut her trip short and flew back to San Diego. I found out because she showed up at the condo, and because I had anticipated that possibility, I was not there when she arrived. I had expected she might come back early. So, the morning after the rooftop incident, I packed a suitcase and moved into the small storage unit office I had access to through work. One of our project managers owns a short-term furnished rental near Mission Valley that was empty between tenants. I paid him for 2 weeks up front. Clean arrangement, no drama. Before I left the condo, I removed my personal documents, passport, laptop backups, and a few sentimental items. I did not empty the place. I did not change the locks. Both of our names are on the mortgage, so I kept it legally clean. When Angela landed back in San Diego, I was at a job site reviewing steel placement. She tried calling again, blocked. Then she emailed from her work address. Subject line urgent. I did not block that one yet. I read it once. She wrote that I had overreacted publicly, embarrassed her in front of her friends and Marcus, and created a narrative that made her look unstable. She said nothing physical had happened and that I had destroyed our engagement over optics. She also wrote that the condo is her home too, and I could not just disappear and make decisions without her. That part was fair, so I responded brief and factual. I said the engagement was over. The email reflected the reality of a break initiated by her. I said I was open to discussing either a buyout or listing the condo for sale through attorneys. I suggested we communicate in writing to keep things clear. No insults, no accusations. She replied within minutes. "This is insane. We can fix this." That was the first time she used the word fix. Not once during the break conversation had she used that language. I did not engage emotionally. I simply repeated that I would coordinate through legal channels regarding the property, and that I would transfer my remaining share of shared expenses through the end of the month. An hour later, my sister texted again. Apparently, Angela had posted a vague story about betrayal and impulsive decisions. Comments were mixed, some supportive, some questioning. For the first time since this started, I felt calm, not triumphant, not vindicated, just aligned. She had wanted to break that function like a loophole. I treated it like a contract revision, and contracts do not revert just because one party regrets the outcome. 2 weeks later, the situation was no longer emotional. It was procedural. Angela and I met once in a neutral setting, a conference room at the real estate attorney's office downtown. No raised voices, no tears, just paperwork. She looked tired, not devastated, just deflated. She said she had not expected me to end everything publicly. She said she thought the break would give us breathing room and that I escalated it to make a point. I told her calmly that I did not end it publicly. I clarified it publicly after she reframed our engagement as optional. She tried once more to minimize Cabo. She said nothing happened with Marcus, that the dancing was harmless, that the comments were misinterpreted. I did not argue the details. I told her the issue was not whether she crossed a physical line. The issue was that she was willing to suspend our engagement to create space for ambiguity. Once that happened, I could not rely on the foundation anymore. She did not have a counterargument for that. We agreed to list the condo. The market in San Diego was strong enough that we would likely walk away clean after fees. We split the realtor and legal costs evenly. After that meeting, I blocked her email too. Not out of anger, out of finality. The condo sold within 5 weeks. We signed closing documents separately. The last message I received about her was through a mutual friend who said she and Marcus did not last beyond the summer. Apparently, he was not interested in being part of a situation that volatile. I am not proud of how publicly it unfolded, but I do not regret drawing a clean line. If someone tells you they need a break specifically when an ex re-enters the picture, that is not confusion. That is preference testing. She tested the alternative. I removed myself from the equation, and the meltdown everyone saw was not because I embarrassed her. It was because the safety net she assumed would still be there was gone.